and good afternoon. Let me begin by just saying I'm sorry it took so long to get yesterday's video up. It didn't actually go up till sometime after I went to bed because of problems uploading to YouTube. Be that as it may, Peter's discussion with me about democracy, I forgot the other word. Oh, I got it right here. Direct democracy and CVACs. It's online at Facebook and YouTube. And today I'm going to continue talking about CVACs, which Peter introduced yesterday. And the title that I've selected for today is CVACs, Structures Where Human Rights Predominate. What is a CVAC? I would venture to say that most people in the world have never heard of CVACs, which may not be true of most who listen to my videos with any regularity. I think the term, or acronym, was coined by Heather Tucci-Jarraf as she visualized a new system of governance and cooperative ventures to replace the old paradigm corporate system of slave control. She called it Creators Value Asset Centers. Instead of value and authority being external, she realized that it all came from within us, the people. In today's video, I want to share my take on what CVACs are about. To me, they provide structures where human rights and responsibilities are predominant over any system of external control, and where each and every human being is lawfully and morally accountable for whatever he or she does. It is a vision and plan to return sanity and healing to a world that, to many, is obviously insane. I'm not going to be able to answer every question here, and I want to make it clear that these are my perceptions about CVACs. And I want to begin by reading a bit from the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable or unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. With that, I end the reading from the Declaration of Independence, which was a unanimous declaration in Congress on July 4th, 1776. What Heather did in creating the OPPT, in which she foreclosed using the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, she used those principles in the UCC to expose and foreclose the slavery system that has been operating on this planet for longer than any of us have been alive. And she had a greater vision, not just to foreclose on the corporate structure, but to create what, in my opinion, is the alternative to the corporate structure, namely CVACs. Now, let me say at the onset here that each one of us individually is a CVAC. Each one of us has within us, as our very being, we have value given to us by the Creator. That value is life. That value is creativity, the ability to labor and to do things, to be and to do. That is a given, and Heather recognized that in the documentations. Now, bear in mind, Heather is an attorney, but she's also a mystic. And she created the documents so that attorneys and judges and people in law could understand them, but also with a mystical twist that people in the law would not so easily understand. So there's two forms of communication she's used in her documentation. Nevertheless, many people around the world now are building upon the foundation of foreclosure of the corporations and building on using the structure of CVACs. Now, CVACs, basically, from my perception, were derived from the wisdom gained from looking at what was wrong with the corporate structure. In the corporate structure, everything was set up to avoid accountability, to avoid personal responsibility, and to allow people to do unlawful things, and to make laws or rules that allowed the unlawful behavior. Nevertheless, within the very structure of those rules and laws, in the Uniform Commercial Code and even in the United States Code and a lot of other codes around the world, there remain the elements of truth that were laid out, like in the Declaration of Independence, the Magna Carta, the original Constitution of the United States, etc. There were certain principles that were embedded in there, and they had to be in there because they are foundational truths, and it's going back to the foundational truths that we are at as a human family today. And CVACs are, besides being individual, they are a cooperative and a collective venture to create a structure or structures that serve the highest good of the most people, not special interest groups. It's not government of a few over many. It's government by many, self-governing, and choosing to create that which, as I said, is for the highest good of mankind, the highest good of the planet. Now, some people, when I say where human rights predominate, are going to say, well, what about the rights of the earth? What about the rights of animals? What's wrong with the earth is human. It's not animals, it's not plants, it's not minerals, it's not anything else, it's human. It might be spiritual, that there might be spiritual essences or beings that are involved also, but it's sentient beings of which humans are the visible pinnacle on earth, where all of the problems lie, and it's also where all of the solutions are. So CVACs are actually alternative structures set up in a cooperative venture of people working together to accomplish a mission. There can be CVACs for any number of things that we take for granted in our world, but the key is CVACs hold every individual accountable. Every individual that serves in a collective CVAC takes an oath and a bond to serve the highest good of all, to not subjugate or abrogate the rights of anybody else, that human rights are at the pinnacle of it. Everything depends on every human having his or her full rights guaranteed, unable to be abused. Now, actually, the United States Constitution provided a lot of those very things in the form that was best at that time in the 18th century. Yeah, the 18th century. In any case, the corporations took over, and the bankers took over, and profiteers took over, and wanted to do everything based on competition, creating the illusion of scarcity, when in actuality we live on a planet of abundance. Scarcity has to be created. It's not a natural thing. Nature provides bountifully for creation, for all of us. Nature gives us a whole bunch of things, including our creativity, including our ability to move around and to work and to think and to feel and to be. It gives us all of these things. We are abundant in everything that we need, but we've been sold a bill of goods that makes us think we're less than. The value, Heather realized, and many of us are realizing, the value has always been in us. The government has always operated with the consent of the governed. The problem is the governed were ignorant. The problem is the governed were not aware of what was going on. The problem was the people were easily manipulated and easily controlled. And the control mechanisms have gotten more sophisticated, tighter, as we've gone through our lives and into the 21st century now. With 9/11 and all sorts of other things, people began to wake up. 9/11 was a turning point where masses of people began to realize that our governments and institutions and our so-called leaders and authorities were lying to us. Anyway, the CVACs are a transparent alternative to all the secretiveness. When you hear the term national security isn't about national security. It's about protecting the criminals from the anger and wrath of the people when the people find out what they've been actually doing. As George Bush once said to that reporter, I can't remember her name, if the people ever found out what we've done, they'd, I don't know whether he said tar and feather us or hang us from the nearest lamppost. But in any case, the people would not be very happy. That's national security, to protect the interests and the crimes and hide the crimes of the criminal class that has risen to the top in the United States and in many other nations around the world. And so CVACs give us the opportunity to have everything accessible to the people, everything open and transparent, everything open source. It gives us the opportunity to take responsibility for self-governance. That's of our individual lives and collectively. To create a means of exchange, a monetary system, a financial system that is fair and honest and above board, and there's no fraud, that all contracts are lawful contracts, that there's always two parties, that every detail of the contract, every detail of the agreement between the parties is laid on the table and holds up to common law. Common law is the main bulwark, if you will, and it's universal common law. It's the law of nature that allows each of us to have the individual rights that were enumerated or mentioned in the Declaration of Independence and enumerated in the Bill of Rights and the Magna Carta, and more that we can think of now. I mean, those documents were not finished documents, but we have the ability now, through cooperation and through honesty and transparency, to lay a new foundation for a new system of governance, a new system of finance, where there is unlimited opportunity for everyone to reach his and her potential. And everyone becomes a beneficiary of the system of CVACs, whereas in the corporate structure, only a few people were the beneficiaries and everyone else was the slave. It was a slave system, which is what Heather laid bare with the OPPT documents filing. Now, the OPPT, for those of you that don't know, is the One People's Public Trust. It has been dissolved, and we're in a different era now. Trusts have always been the way of it. We've all been included in trusts, whether we knew it or not. And so when Heather included all of humanity in the One People's Public Trust, it wasn't to enslave, it was to liberate. Now, there's a lot of people that still don't understand that, and I'm not going to argue with you. If you want to put your argument in, it'll probably fall on deaf ears unless you have a genuine question that can be answered. Some of them can't be answered. But anyway, as I said, under the old system, everyone took an oath of office. Everybody in the United States took an oath of office. What they did in the United States, and I don't know if they did this in other countries, but I've seen the oath of office of some of the judges here locally, and they add the words, instead of just upholding the Constitution. They uphold the Constitution and the government. Well, the government is under the Constitution. When you put the government on equal footing, that's an anomaly. It's an injustice. It's unlawful. It's an unlawful oath. So they don't even take the oath of office that's required in the United States of all public servants. But under CVACs, the only way that you can join a CVAC is to swear your allegiance to be honest, to be above board, to be transparent, to do things for the best good, not for personal self-interest. In other words, it's about collective imagination and collective cooperation, and you're going to be part of a team, and you're not going to overrun other people. This is the whole point of establishing CVACs. It's a new system of governance that gives everybody, as I said, unlimited opportunity, unlimited personal responsibility and accountability, and liability if you abuse someone else's rights. Now, abusing someone else's rights means there's a damaged party. That's the basis of common law. There can be no crime without a damaged party. And in common law, a corporation is it's a legal fiction. And so you can't damage a corporation. That's impossible to damage a corporation. You can only damage people. And everything in the CVACs is based on people-to-people relationships with each other and responsibilities to each other. This is why this is the wave of the future, and it's why various groups have jumped on the bandwagon, if you will, when the OPPT filings came out, and CVACs are actually being established all over the world. Now, you haven't heard a whole lot about it, and you won't until such time as they are fully funded, and until such time as it's safe to come out completely into the open and not have a whole bunch of bloodshed by the powers that used to be, the powers that were trying to hold on to their illusion of power, which is rapidly disintegrating before our very eyes if we look. But most people don't know how to see, and the mainstream media doesn't report it. And mainstream media will be held accountable too. There's going to be new media. There has to be new set of standards of honesty and of transparency so that we can all know what's going on and we can make intelligent, informed decisions about everything that affects our lives. It's basically all of the corporations, including all of the governments, have been foreclosed, and the new structure that's being created to take the place of these corporations and the corporate governance are called CVACs. Creators value asset centers. You are one, and collectively we create others to serve each other and to serve the highest good of mankind. That's all I'm going to share for today. If I think of anything else, it'll be in another video. But thank you for listening and allowing me to share my viewpoint on what CVACs are. Namaste.